I was going to make a video on the Nationals and the Astros, but once I saw Francisco Lindor trending on Twitter, that is not a good thing because his contract does not end until 2021. So what other reason could Francisco Lindor be trending on Twitter aside from he's about to get traded? And honestly, this was me reacting to all the tweets that I saw.
I'm going to throw up. I think I'm going to throw up.
Don't throw up.
I am going to tell you guys right now, I will not be a happy Cleveland fan. I understand we're going to talk about all of the little nuances as to why trading Francisco Lindor to the Dodgers or the Yankees might be a good thing in return, but it's just Francisco Lindor is different. You cannot trade this guy. And all you Dodgers fans, you're clowning me on Twitter right now. Yankees fans are clowning me. I'm going to try and convince you why you don't want Francisco Lindor because I want him more, okay? He cannot leave me. If you guys are brand new to the channel, you don't know that I am one of the biggest Tribe fans in all of the world because I live in Las Vegas. We don't have a baseball team, so I have to cheer for my grandpa's team, the Cleveland Indians, and it's been such a long road for us. We haven't won a championship in I don't even know how long. It's like 80 something years. We choked 3-1. In 2017, we choked 2-0 against the Yankees. We finally have a top 10 player. I'm sure that most of you guys would agree that Francisco Lindor is a top 5 player in baseball. Why would you want to trade him? And that's because Cleveland, let's face it, they don't have a lot of money and the owners, they're a little cheap. The last time that we had a player on the level of Francisco Lindor, I can name 2 of them off the top of my head. Grady Sizemore is one of them, but I don't even think he compares to Francisco Lindor. Or a guy you might not remember played for the Tribe, Manny Ramirez, a young Manny Ramirez from 1998. Actually, let me get my stats real quick because Manny Ramirez back in the day, from 1999 to 2000, those 2 seasons combined, Manny Ramirez had a 1,127 OPS, 82 home runs, and 287 RBI. So he was an absolute hitting machine. Francisco Lindor is not the hitter that Manny Ramirez was, but if you're talking about overall talent as a hitter, a runner, a fielder, and your charisma and passion for the game of baseball, Francisco Lindor is that guy. Why would you trade him? So again, like I talked about in this video, the trends on Twitter have been that the Dodgers are the front runners, but that the New York Yankees, they are not out of it just yet. So we're going to go through all of the trade scenarios just yet. But before we do that, I quickly want to go over Francisco Lindor and what you would be getting in return because his stats and his passion for the game, you have to give me all of your top prospects or your best players because this guy, this kid, he's no joke. He is the real deal when it comes to Major League Baseball. Since being called up in 2015, the Indians' attendance has gone anywhere from 10 to 30% up because this guy plays with the fire. And not only does he play with the fire, because a lot of people just like, yeah, I love baseball. I'm so lucky that I get to be paid millions of dollars to play this wonderful game. He doesn't just embody that. He actually shows up and he puts up insane cartoon stats because he plays platinum defense and he does this in the batter's box. If we take a look over the last 3 seasons, he is averaging 110 runs, 34 home runs, 21 stolen bases. So when you have 34 home runs a year, 21 stolen bases, over 110 runs, and elite defense, that is worth $300 million. I think that he will be getting more money than Bryce Harper and Manny Machado. And if you don't believe me, those stats are right there. Lindor seems to coincide with the team getting better and the attendance at Progressive Field going up. Now, I know it's kind of dipped the last 2 years because obviously we're not in the playoffs deep running or anything like that. But come on, man. To the owner of the Cleveland Indians, do not trade Francisco Lindor. If we have to go back to the middle of the 2019 season when the owner came out and said, well, there was a reporter that asked him a question. The owner of the Indians, we're talking about him right now, or could it be the general manager? I don't really care because it was so stupid to say this in the middle of a season. We're going to talk about the trade rumors, I promise you, but I need to rant real quick because the GM came out and said that you guys, meaning me, Tribe fans, better enjoy Francisco Lindor while you can. What does that mean? You want me to enjoy Francisco Lindor while I can? That for sure means that we're getting rid of him, whether it's through free agency or whether we're trading him away. Now, because we've seen this happen with Manny Ramirez, I understand that the Cleveland area is not the most affluent, therefore they can't go to every single game possible. Therefore, we're never going to be in the top 5 for payroll. Now, I understand that's why Manny Ramirez walked. We couldn't give him the money, which leads me to this. Maybe we have to trade Francisco Lindor. maybe that's just the way the cookie crumbles, okay? We're not a rich baseball team. So what we're going to do right now is we are going to go over the trade speculations right now because, again, the Dodgers are in the number 1 spot. The Yankees are in the number 2 spot. I think, honestly, that they have the best pieces to return as well. So I'm going to go ahead and verify those as pretty accurate. So we're going to start with the Dodgers real quick. Then we're going to move to the Yankees because, again, they have some good pieces to the point where if we did trade Francisco Lindor, it wouldn't hurt as bad. But all of the guys that we get in return, their skill level might match. But the passion and the smile that Francisco Lindor has, we will be losing money, and I don't think it'll be worth it. So that's just me. Lindor puts butts in the seats. It's good for Cleveland. Let's get into the trade rumors. So if it were up to me, if I was the Indians general manager and I was trading Francisco Lindor, I would trade him to the Dodgers in exchange for Gavin Lux, Cody Bellinger, Clayton Kershaw, and Vince Scully's vocal cords. That's what it would take if I was trading him. But if we're being non-biased, if we're being an actual baseball fan and trying to make this play go down, like let's say we were doing a trade simulator, this would be the best trade for both teams. It's not going to be biased. It's not going to be unfair or anything like that. The perfect trade would be Corey Seager and an up-and-coming pitcher named Tony, I might butcher his last name, Tony Gonsolin, in exchange for Francisco Lindor. So the Dodgers, they get to keep Gavin Lux, put him at second base. You have Francisco Lindor going to the Dodgers, so the Dodgers have to pay him in 2021. The Indians, they're going to get a cheaper kind of poor man's Francisco Lindor and Corey Seager. Now, he did lead the entire National League in doubles, so he still has the bat that is capable of scoring runs, but in the playoffs, he wasn't that great. And then this other guy, Tony Gonsolin, he was actually pretty solid. If you take a look, I'll show his highlights in just a second. He had a 2.93 ERA in 2019. He started some games. I think he started in 6 games. He appeared in 11 games. 2.93 ERA. He had a pretty high strikeouts per 9. He reminds me a lot of Trevor Bauer. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to roll his highlights real quick, and you guys have to let me know in the comment section down below. Do you think that he could be the next Trevor Bauer? Because if that's the case, if we can get a healthier Corey Seager in 2020 and then have someone to replace Trevor Bauer, who we just traded, I think that makes sense. But again, even that, I wouldn't want to do. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys a biased pie-in-the-sky trade that I do not think the Dodgers would actually send to the Indians, but this would be my dream trade that doesn't include Clayton Kershaw and half the roster, everything like that. But if you, the Dodgers, offered me Gavin Lux, who is the top prospect, actually the second top prospect in all of baseball, the number 1 prospect in the Dodgers, this guy rakes. I watched him in AAA. He's an absolute monster. He actually hit a home run in the playoffs, so he can get it done. I think he hit 240 in his first 23 MLB games, so he's a little bit shaky to start off, but I think that he is going to be great. But if you include him and that Tony guy, or maybe even Dustin May in a package for Mr. Lindor, maybe that gets the job done. I'm actually kind of excited about that because I think Lux is going to be absolutely amazing. This guy can flat out rake. He can replace what Lindor can do in the batter's box, but defensively, and again, with charisma, you can't ever replace that with Lindor. Maybe if you had Andrelton Simmons and, I don't know, Gavin Lux on the same team and you traded them together, maybe you could work it because that would somewhat replace all of Francisco Lindor. But the Dodgers, they don't have that, so it's not going to happen. And one thing I would also do is it wouldn't just be Gavin Lux and Dustin May or Tony Gonsolin in exchange for just Francisco Lindor. I would also include a young and up-and-coming pitcher that I saw a lot this year for the Tribe. His name is Aaron Savali. This guy started 11 games, and he had a he actually started 10 games, excuse me. He had a 2.34 ERA. That's pretty hard to do as a rookie. You get called up, you have a 2.34 ERA in 10 games, and usually they were against the Twins or some pretty good teams, so you might be giving away Dustin May, who's electric. He had a 3.63 ERA this year. Whether it was starting pitching or relieving, he was pretty inconsistent, if I might say so myself, in exchange for Francisco Lindor and Aaron Savali. You also have to factor in Gavin Lux. In my opinion, that's kind of a fair trade. I know it's kind of pie in the sky and it probably won't ever happen. And I know Dodgers fans are probably typing real fast right now, you can't have Dustin May and Gavin Lux. Well, Francisco Lindor is a once-in-a-lifetime player. Aaron Savali, he has showed some promise. He doesn't walk anyone. He's kind of like a poor man's Shane Bieber. Not even a poor man's. A 2.34 ERA is amazing. Now, I know that Aaron Savali is not a sexy name, but I did want to bring him up real quick because a lot of baseball fans, casual baseball fans, they don't know who that is. So the fact that you can get him and Francisco Lindor in exchange for some prospects, I'll always be on the side of acquiring stars and superstars because prospects, just like Gavin Lux showed or even Vladimir Guerrero Jr. showed, you can rake in AAA, but Major League Baseball is a different animal, okay? You are going to have a 705 OPS in your first 23 games. Example A, Gavin Lux. So that would be my pie in the sky. It's not going to happen. This would be rejected in all the trade simulations. Now, one more trade I did see online was the fact that the Indians, they're going to lose Yasiel Puig, so they need an outfielder. So one thing that I saw, I want to make sure I get this right, because Bradley Zimmer and Tyler Naquin, they either don't show up or they're always injured. So one thing I did see is that the Dodgers would trade Jock Peterson and some other prospects in exchange for Francisco Lindor, but they would only get Francisco Lindor. So the Tribe, they get their outfielder, a lefty bat, maybe some prospects that are pitchers or relief pitchers. I'm not really too sure. I would love to have Jock Peterson in that lineup, but again, you're replacing Francisco Lindor, who can hit you 30 home runs and also hit a 300 average. So it doesn't really make sense to me. In my opinion, the Astros and the Nationals have now shown the entire baseball world what it takes to get to the World Series. You need 1, 2, 3 amazing starting pitchers, so Justin Verlander, Garrett Cole, you have Zach Greinke. On the other hand, you have Max Scherzer, you have Steven Strasburg, and Patrick Corbin. So the Indians, well, I mean, they kind of have Corey Kluber, Mike Clevenger, and Shane Bieber, so we need one more guy. Maybe Dustin May can fill in with that. I'm not really too sure. You also need a pretty good bullpen. The Astros are showing that you don't need an elite bullpen like the New York Yankees. And then, last but not least, you need an elite offense. The Astros lineup, that's the reason why they're coming back against the Nationals. The Nationals lineup with their role players and stars, that's the reason why they're in this spot to begin with. So if you have a really good starting rotation, a pretty good bullpen, and an amazing offense, you can do what the Stros and the Nationals are doing. Right now with the Indians, their offense was not that great last year. Their pitching was really good. Their bullpen started off great, and then it kind of died down towards the end. So we need some pitchers, starting pitchers, and we need some offense. So I guess if we trade Francisco Lindor in return for some few more bats, maybe it can happen. And honestly, the Yankees, they might be the answer. The reason why I say the Yankees might be the answer is because in July of 2019, this past summer, they signed a 16-year-old foreign prospect who was named after Jason Giambi. Jason, or it could be Jason Dominguez. He is named the Martian. He is also named Teenage Mike Trout. He's 16 years old, and he has been talked about as Bo Jackson and Yoan Moncada combined, because he also is a switch hitter. He is being touted as the next 30-30 guy, so that replaces Francisco Lindor right there. I actually don't know if Francisco Lindor has done 30-30. I believe he did in 2018, but don't quote me on that. But if we take a look at his scouting report, again, he's called the Martian. He's called Teenage Mike Trout. Did you know that Billy Hamilton ran a 6'2", 60-yard dash? 6.2 seconds, 60 yards. This kid, Jason Dominguez, ran it in 6.3. So he has the power and the arm of Bo Jackson. He can run like Billy Hamilton, and he's also being called a switch-hitting Ronald Acuna Jr. I would take that in exchange for Francisco Lindor. Before I ever let Francisco Lindor walk in free agency, I would take a flyer on Dominguez, 100%. Also, one more player that I do really like for the Yankees is a prospect named Josh Smith. If you're a Yankees fan, you might not even know who this guy is, because I think he's the 17th best prospect in their system. But for me, he kind of reminds me of Jose Ramirez before he became J-Ram, like a household name, because if we take a look, I know this was in the minors. He had a 324 batting average, but the thing I love the most is he plays great defense, has a great arm and speed, and he had 25 walks to 17 strikeouts. So Josh Smith and Jason Dominguez in exchange for Francisco Lindor straight up, I would do that. But if you're a Yankees fan, you have to let me know in the comment section down below. Is Dominguez an untouchable, or do you think that he's worth it to bring Lindor to the Bronx and actually win right now? All right, guys, well, that is going to do it for today's video. I hope that I was able to make some sense. I was trying not to get too emotional, too dramatic, and give all the theatrics and everything like that. I tried to provide you guys with both biased trades that I would do because I'm a biased Indians fan and I want a haul in return, but I also wanted to be a little bit realistic, and I gave you guys some in return. Now, if I did a bad job at that, I'm sorry. Again, he's my favorite player. It's like if you're a Yankees fan, it's trying to justify trading Aaron Judge. His jersey sales are through the roof. His energy, his charisma, he's polite, his rapport with his teammates are amazing. You can almost not justify trading Aaron Judge unless it was for Mike Trout. So that's going to be today's video. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think that this is going to be a crazy offseason? Because to me, honestly, I would keep Francisco Lindor and maybe trade him in the next offseason, maybe sign Will Smith, a few more bullpen guys. There's a few other bats on the market that you could plug in. I don't know, but Corey Seager and Tony Gonsolin or Dustin May or Gavin Lux, those are all nice pieces. Same with Jason Dominguez, but he wouldn't get to the league until like 2023. So I'm going to go drink some water. I'm going to take an Advil. I'm going to take a nap because I need it after seeing all these rumors. Man, I hope it doesn't happen. Lindor's too much. That's too much for me.